Okay, hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. This is a half-page scene on glossy cardstock that I started on New Year's Eve a few days ago. And I like the foundation, but there's a lot of kind of rough areas in here that, to my eye, just aren't kind of resolved enough. And I just want this piece to be a little bit more textural. Okay, so on this glossy cardstock, we've laid down a lot of dye-based inks, maybe 5 or 6 colors layered on top of one another. And then I've gone back in and added these little details with the pebbles and the water texture and some of the acrylic paint pens, okay? But I haven't gone into some areas, and like I like to do on most of my scenes, is add some kind of refining and softening textures with some additional brilliance, or some brilliance ink. I haven't used any on here. Okay, but I didn't do that because these perimeter objects, the black ones that kind of framing surrounding leaf cluster textures. They were super wet because the undercoat of all those layers of dye-based inks had almost kind of created a super saturation. So you have these black images stamped right over the top of that. Setting up and drying, and you could heat set it, but I like to let it air dry. I tend to think that if you heat set it sometimes I'm wondering if it doesn't fade some of the inks out a little bit by doing so. So anyways, I let that dry, and then I have sealed it with a Krylon spray fixative. Okay, so it's a little bit extra glossy, even though spray fixative is a matte spray, but if you put on a pretty good coating of it, it looks pretty glossy. Hello, Patty and Bonnie. Thanks for the order, Bonnie. I hope you enjoy your new stamps. Happy New Year to everyone as well. Okay, so let's see. Where should I start here? Okay, so here, let me tell you the things that I have an issue with. Just at this stage, I always get this like in all of my scenes, but I go for a lot of texturing and detail in areas. In this case, it happens to be in the water for the most part. And it's really busy in these areas, okay? Now, I kind of want that for the texturing, but I just want to kind of balance it out with a little bit of softness. It's really sharp and it's crisp and it's intense, in terms of those inks in there. But I just like a balance with it. I want to have that in there, but then you have other areas that are a little bit softer, so it's like the other side of the textural scale spectrum. And that's what we want to add here. Okay, but I think let's do it like this. We can do it many different ways. I think I'm going to go in and I'm going to add in some extra color too. With my acrylic paint pens, we have the 3mm and the 0.7mm extra fine. And I think some of these trees will benefit from kind of a little bit more specific areas of color, rather than just this overall, general kind of application of, whatever foundation colors that we laid down in the background here, okay? Okay, so specifically, like on these large trees in here, this kind of lighter tree against the dark ones. See right in here, like I like to add in a little bit more of a kind of a specific application of color. In other words, so I'm adding it like on the top sides of these branches because this yellow is lighter than the background. So if I lay that in there like that, it kind of adds to the lighting scheme of the piece because we're saying that the light is coming from above the tree. So I'm putting some of these little dots, in some cases, like one dot or something like that, on top of the branch. All right. Now that's a little bit harsh, but I'll balance that out with some more of the smaller whatever, dots of, I guess, light is what they're supposed to represent, okay? And this one right here, there's not a lot of tone in it, so let's add a little bit of color. In fact, let's see here. Let's go into it with some alcohol pens here as well, okay? So I just got all that background going on the scene, then I stamped my imagery right over the top of it. So I didn't have these real specific, or no, wait. No, maybe we did stamp these images first and then we toned in after it. Okay, yeah, that's what we did. You can do these scenes in several different ways. If you know kind of the color scheme that you're going to be doing and roughly the placement of it, you can lay all your colors down first and then stamp over that those color schemes or lighting schemes with your imagery. And then you can go back in and color a little bit more. Sometimes it's a good way to do that, because if you stamp your imagery first and if your pads are like super wet, then when you're doing these streaks across it with your different tones, it could potentially drag some of those impression colors. But I think I stamped everything out first just to show people kind of the value scale going from light imagery in the background. And then as you move down here, it gets darker and darker. So those were like a lighter brown. Then I think it was like a plum or a wine or something like that color. These are dark brown right here. And then the closest imagery is stamped in black. All right. All right, let's see. So this is just an alcohol ink pad here, or pen. And these are really good to go in here with because it's not going to drag any of your dye-based, water-based colors around on your impressions. Not that it would anyway, because I spray sealed it, but this is something that I didn't want to do too much of just because the card was so moist with all that different ink that I laid down. I kind of went crazy with my layering. Just because, I don't know, it was like the last card of the year for me, a last scene of the year. Just kind of going all out with the saturations. So alcohol inks and dye-based inks are transparent, so you can lay this down on here, and the colors underneath are going to show through. So if you go over like red with a transparent yellow, it's not going to look like, a light yellow over the top of it. That color underneath is going to show through. I've had some questions about that in the past. Just, people that are new to just different types of inks. All right, so there's some yellow in there. So see, it's a little bit more bright now too. It's a little bit more glowing as far as the intensity goes. Okay. And let's see, let's try an orange in here too. I'm kind of going roughly with the same color scheme that I stamped, or that I did those backgrounds in. This is a little bit of it's a light, it's a medium orange, but I'll kind of stick to the bottom sides of some of these branches. And if you can't tell where some of those bottom sides and the top sides of the branch are, then you just kind of make it up, okay? And you just kind of stick with that, whatever structure, okay? So wherever you put this, just on the other side of it, add, some light. Paint pen work, okay? And if you don't have a bunch of different colors of paint pens too, even if you have just white, that would work out really well too. Hello, Happy New Year to you guys. How was New Year's at the Greers? Did you guys stamp into the new year? All right, Let's see here. All right. A little bit of yellow right here. See, some of my background trees are a little bit anemic because I stamped them out so light because they were supposed to look like they're in the background, but I just want them a little bit more full. I don't know if you can tell some of those areas right there are kind of, yeah, a little anemic. And some of my water in here too, okay? It's pretty rich in terms of value, okay? So it layers, okay? But that's not really that bright in here. Not that you have to have everything bright, but see, I'll show you this right here. Let me see if I have a little bit of a duller yellow here. Here's a pastel yellow right here, okay? And let's see, should I use the fine side or should I? Let's go with the fine side right here. Let's see if we can add a little bit more intensity right in here. See this little area right here? Let me just come into it like this. Okay. Yeah. See, it's like adding a little bit of intensity right in here, okay? So I did it this way, coming from the outside edge in like that. So it's kind of going for something like this, okay? You want to get that kind of tapered stroke like that, okay? As opposed to this, all right? So just kind of keep it nice and light like that, all right? And then when I'm coming into it from this side, I want it to taper off in here. So I'm going to flip this around like this, okay? Get that one-handed flip around there down, Lynn. All right, coming in like this. But see, this is kind of, it's bringing some intensity and depth in here, okay? This is really fun to do too. And if you go a little bit too crazy with it, then you can just bring it back and go with like a, oh, I don't know, like a brown or something like that, just to kind of mellow it out. But it's a really fun exercise to transition ranges, okay? So we're doing it in terms of light and dark, okay? And this is a really good exercise to do with these streaks in here and this oscillating light and darkness in here. We have it dark, light, you know, kind of dark in here with the imagery, you know, and then we go light, dark. It's just one little streak, but then it's light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, okay? And maybe it's not super dark, you know, it's not like black or anything like that, but darker. So you're just oscillating light. But you can also kind of oscillate intensity at times too, so you can make areas a little bit brighter like this, but then you can, you know, have these kind of more pastel tones in here, you know, so that it's a little bit more varied. And, you know, you can have kind of a nice rich surface because you're playing contrasts against one another. And again, I always say this, but it doesn't mean that you have to do that on every scene or something like that. Sometimes, you know, it's like an entire pastel color scheme or something like that looks really cool too. Or you can do something like super bright, you know, that's just radiant the whole way through. And that, you know what I mean? It's just a different type of look. This one's more of a, like an exercise in, you know, color intensity ranges there. Hello, Catherine. Happy New Year. We had the grandbaby girl. Congratulations. Michelle, how are you? Happy New Year. Okay, here's a little pink. It's not, it's pinks. Okay, that pink is dead. It's one of those like really cheap packs of pens here. Okay, so the pink I'm adding in here. I hope everyone had a nice new year. and have a great 2025. Okay, let me see if I could show you this. Okay, now you can see where I've added the alcohol ink right in here because it has a little bit of a different texture to it. See right down here, these strokes right in here? I mean, it looks like that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray seal this again after I do all, you know, all these little touches on here. And that will even all that out. You won't see those kind of alcohol-y streaks in there anymore. So it'll unify it and it'll remedy that aspect of it. And I'm going to be adding in some pigment ink in here too, so that should, the additional spray sealant will lock down the Brilliance ink in there. Okay, now let me go back to my pens, okay? When I started adding these pens a few minutes ago, I don't know, whatever, 10 minutes ago or something like that, I forgot, oh yeah, let's try some alcohol inks on here too. Try to kind of throw the kitchen sink in on this card. It's my first, it was my last card of the year in 2024. It'll be my first card of 2025 with this kind of little refinement right there. So see that little kind of lighting on that tree like that? So the tree is a little bit more refined. There's like, you know, a little bit more texture and variation to it. Lighting for sure. You can't do that without your brushes. Use anything that feels really comfortable with to you. I knew someone that worked in dye-based inks all the time, and she used she used nothing but brushes to apply her inks with. She had a lot of different ones. She had kind of a, I forget what they call it. In stamping, they call them stipple brushes, but I think they were stencil brushes, so they were like a flat head, but she had them in different sizes. And then she would add in colors that way. And then she might use, I don't know, like a flathead one or something like a straighter one like this. And she would dip that into her pads and then stroke, you know, add streaks like this into her pieces when she was going for kind of more of that type of application. But yeah, she was awesome. She has a bunch of stuff in our website gallery section. Her name is Tyra Smith, and I don't know, she probably has like 300 scenes up there. But yeah, whenever I think about brushes being used a lot with color application, I always think of I always go back to her applications, because she was the first one that I ever saw that was using a lot of brush work in her scenes. Okay, adding in some little details in the background. You can't really see too much of this because you can see it more in here because this is something that's a lot lighter than when I'm adding it onto, right around in here. But in here, it's more of like this subtle yellow on top of a similar value. There's not a lot of contrast there, but in person, it does give it a little bit of extra texturing, which I like a lot. Thanks, Patty. Glad you like it, Michelle. Okay, let's see here. All right, now here's the thing that I really wanted to develop in here. Really want this to look real kind of sparkly and kind of alive in here, okay? And I didn't do that too much in the... I added some dots down here, but it was like a super conservative. I used the 0.7 millimeters, so you really can't even see it in here. But let's just go into it right now with some additional tones. It's going to look too kind of busy, probably. I'll do this with both white and this kind of duller, slightly duller yellow right now. The white is the one that's going to really show up a lot more. I didn't really want to do that too much, though. In that New Year's Eve live stream where I was doing this, because I wouldn't be able to kind of blend it out a little bit and mellow it out. So I didn't want to leave, I didn't want it to look horrific. Which it will kind of without that additional kind of mellowing of the white pigment ink over the top of it. Okay, let's see here. Okay, this one's a lot brighter here. I'm not even quite sure of how much to add in here, because I kind of removed a lot of the white of the paper. There's just a little kind of peekaboo areas of white in here. So sometimes when you start adding white in here, if you didn't leave enough of the white of the paper, it can kind of look strange. Because if you've left a little bit of white of the paper, what you're saying is that there's a white light, at least, some of it in the scene, in the whatever, the scenario. So I'm not quite sure how much white pigmenting this scene will take. Okay, I might, I might have to apply it really kind of minimally. I hope I can use as much as I want, though, but we'll just have to see what it looks like. When I start using it in here. Okay, let's see. All right, so that's pretty busy in there right now, too. Now, one of the things I was mentioning is I just, at the beginning of this video, the reason why I'm kind of refining this is that everything is just so textural and busy, to the eye. I want it kind of intense, but I also want it calming. And to me, this isn't like terribly calming right now. Everything's just kind of vibrating with intensity and texture. Okay, so I just want a little bit of a, I don't want to look like a foggy day or something like that, or morning, but I just want a little bit of balance to all of these different kind of louder aspects of this scene and areas specifically. Okay, all right, let's see here. White pigment ink on a 100% cotton ball. Okay. If we have time, I'm going to try a little experiment after this. I haven't done a reverse impression foil card in a while, so if I have time, I'll do one of those and see what that looks like on the blue. Okay, so here we go. All right, so what you do with your white pigment ink, if you're adding it into a scene, is this is the way I usually start doing it. I build it out from the lightest of areas. So if hopefully I've retained enough white areas in the scene, and I start adding it in those areas, because those areas are the areas where the white will blend into the scene the most, because you've retained that value or white from the card, okay? From the paper that you've used, okay? So I add it in there like that, and then I start kind of creeping it out from that area. I usually leave more, but I don't know, I just didn't this time. All right, so I think that looks okay right there. But we'll see what if it can take a lot, quite a bit more. And like these areas right in here are really busy, so it can use a little bit of this, or a lot of this illumination if it will allow me to. What I'm talking about, if you're, specifically, what I'm saying is if it can take it. Sometimes if I get rid of all the white in here and there's none of it left from the paper, and I start adding this white in here, it looks unrelated to the entire color scheme. Okay, so in this color scheme here, what we're saying is that there's like, it's like twilight probably, or just maybe just past sunset. Okay, so the sun's like maybe behind those trees right there. It just dipped past, so it has this golden light in there. So if you have this golden light everywhere and there's no white at all in here, and but you add this mist down there, what that represents is a reflective light that's white, but there isn't any kind of your light source is yellow, so it can stand out a little bit too much. So I think right here there's a tiny bit of white in there and right up there. So I think that looks okay right there. Sometimes, sometimes I go too much, It's just I'm adding tones down, and I always try to remind people to retain some white areas if you're going to add in like a white paint pen or gel pen or something like that with your highlights and the white ink, like like this, the white pigment ink. But sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I get carried away with my coloring too, and it's like, oh my God, I lost it all. So I know where you're coming from if if you're wondering. I still do that too. It's easy to get carried away when you were adding all these different colors like that and then there. So seeing it's like that little white on there, it's a nice contrast to these crisper applications of paint and everything like that. It's really busy and very bright in there, but you can just add a little bit of, softness against it, and it really kind of, it balances it off a little bit. And it doesn't have to balance it out 50-50 if, like this whole area here is going to be intense, but if you just add a little bit somewhere, it can help in the tranquility aspect of a scene. Everywhere sharp, but then you're adding that little bit of softness, soft light. All right, so see that right there? I'm just kind of going up there, right here. Here's a little subtle thing that I'm doing. I'm added it quite a bit right there, a little bit right here, but a little bit more up there, so it's going soft. I wouldn't call that sharp, but it's a little bit sharper, and then soft down here. So, I mean, you could go over the whole thing. I don't know if it's make a big difference, but I'm even oscillating it a little bit right here. So a little bit more, a little bit less, a little bit more. And you can see it here too. So here's some right here, none, some like that, just to vary it. When you first start doing this, the instinct, I think, or whatever, is to do that whole part like that, okay? And I probably when I started adding this type of thing in there, I was probably doing that a lot. I was adding it in the whole areas, but then I was like, oh, let me break it up a little bit more. And I thought that looked a little bit better. Same thing with those like light beams that I do. It was like a full strength light beam that was uniform from one end to the other. And I just started breaking it up a little bit more, and I thought, oh, okay, that looks more natural. And when you think about it, it's less work too, because you're not adding as much. You're just kind of, you're oscillating it again. You're varying the application of it. Okay, so I don't like this area right in here, so I'm gonna add, ooh, see that's like way too much right there. So just add or remove accordingly. Looks okay, like something like that right at the base right there. See this right here? We're kind of oscillating it. There's some right here, none, some, I don't know, none, some. I added a little bit right here too. Okay, so you're oscillating light and dark, but you're also oscillating like sharp and soft too, or whatever, diffused. Okay, now see these trees right in the background. They're all kind of about the same value. Okay, the background trees. This is one image stamped right here, and then I stamped those other ones in the behind this row of trees in a lighter tone back in there. But let's change those a little bit too, or let's tweak them. And that whole row of trees back there is no longer the same value. I've just kind of knocked down that one so that it recedes a little bit. You can do all kinds of things. You could do like every other one, could be in soft. I can't really put like white over that. It's going to really stand out, but kind of in this lighter area, you can kind of play around like that. Let's just do a little bit right there. So it kind of pushes it back. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Something like that. So see that right in there? Doesn't that look a little bit more varied, right in there now? With those two kind of dulled out a little bit. And it doesn't matter which one you do. It could have been this one that was, whited out a little bit, and these two darker, But it just creates a little bit more variation in there. Let's try this too. I'll put that on one side of the that cove right there maybe, but I'll leave that one as is. Let's do this right here. I really like that in the background there. Let's try this too. Let me try to get a little bit on the side of that tree like that. So see, the big fat cotton ball isn't like the ideal kind of applicator for like small areas. But see this right here? I was able to get a little bit on the side of that tree, like on the right side of that tree, but on the left side, a little bit less. So, you know what I mean? There's little detailed things like that. If you give this card to someone, I don't know if they're noticing that type of thing, at all. But it's one of those things that I just think it's just fun to do and fun to watch as the stamper, this piece right here. You can have a lot of fun doing it, and it's just kind of fun to watch this kind of push and pull of objects. It's suddenly like you lay down a little bit of white ink or something like that and it looks like it's like more distant, you know what I mean? Just with a couple taps like that. So it's like you're pushing, you're pulling. This is all two-dimensional, but as you start doing this type of thing, it has more of this illusion of, that third dimension, like a three-dimensional space, so it's kind of fun playing that push and pull game. With a cotton ball. All right, so see that right in there. Okay, so this has taken the this white pigment ink pretty good. I'm really happy about that because I can really change the look of these areas in here a lot with this, or whatever. Not change it, but enhance it. Maybe. Hello, Linda. How are you? I'm checking on that the status of mail going to Canada. Every other day. Still that same message. On the U.S. Postal website. If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, that was the postal strike, postal workers' strike in Canada. So it, like 3 weeks ago, was it? Or 3 weeks? That's now off, but there's still a lot of kind of mail that's been, well, they're not taking any mail up there. You can probably drop a piece of mail out with some postage stamps, but it's just going to get delayed in terms of probably the shipment of it to the border. But you also can, even on these different websites where you can run a label and you can ship like a track type of parcel to Canada. They're not even allowed, that's not even an option. But I did ship out one thing I think I mentioned the other day via UPS during that postal strike, and UPS was still running, but there's been like a massive delay with that one. It's like hasn't made any progress. And I'm just kind of speculating that UPS got hammered with parcels, during the holiday season that, would otherwise have been shipped US postal, whatever, priority, whatever. And I don't know, maybe there was just this gigantic backlog of UPS parcels. All right. So I'm just altering that a little bit too now in the background. Kind of tweaking everything a little bit here. Yesterday, 24. Today, much better, 14. Hello, Beatrice. Oh, thanks, Beatrice. Hope you enjoy them. Yeah, yeah. The Facebook, I can't read any comments that anyone adds. I'm I'm on this different software, and it allows for like live comments on from YouTube. Okay, now one of the things about this white pigment ink, as you're adding it in here, as it dries, it gets more see-through. Okay, so as it dries, you have to kind of assess if you want to add a little bit more, or if you just kind of, you get the feel of how it's going to look when it dries. And I kind of have a feel of that, from doing this, but sometimes I don't even know. And you also, when you spray seal this, okay, it also gets a little bit more transparent. So you don't want to spray seal these types of applications of white pigment ink over darker areas in your background too thickly. Okay, so what you do is you spray seal from distance, like 12 inches, and I just do a quick pass. I just do a little burst of sealant, okay, acrylic sealant, and it just lays down on there, and you give it, I don't know, maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds. It depends what weather you're having, and do it outside too. And then hit it again with a light spray so that as soon as the sealant hits your surface, it almost dries instantly, as opposed to sitting on there for like a half a second or whatever, in which case it can kind of put the, I don't know if it's putting it in solution because this is water-based right here. I mean, you can do this with your oil-based ones too, but it's like pastels, if anyone's ever done pastels and they've sprayed something, or chalks. If you have light applications on top of darker, when you spray seal it, it can kind of make those lighter ones on the top kind of disappear. So, but if you just kind of do it in layers, just fast drying layers, it should be it's fine. But that being said, you do lose a little bit of the opacity of it. Okay, so that being said, what you can do is you can slightly go overboard with it and say, I don't know if maybe that's a little bit too light or something like that. But once it dries and you spray seal it, it'll knock it down. Okay. I don't want a big, blob of, white pigment ink or something like that somewhere, because it's not going to make it, disappear that much. But it's just something to keep in mind. You can experiment a little bit with it and see what that's going to look like. Okay, so anyways, I'm going over that. So see these little twinkly, little sparkly lights in here? It's not quite as extreme with this kind of diffusion of light over the top of it with the white pigment ink. So it got really busy, in other words, with that, with those paint pen, acrylic paint pen applications. But what we're doing is we're knocking down the contrast of those inks in there with the acrylic paint pen touches. So it, it's more of a mellow type of little sparkle. And I haven't used white yet, so I want to go back in and add little touches with this now too, especially now that we have this white kind of lighter glowing touch in there now. So see, it's like so much more mellow in here now. Okay. It's an exercise in sharp and then, soft and sharpness, so you can keep going back and forth, I can still go back and I can add in little touches with this. If that's too much, you can go back in with some additional ink and go over it like that. So, it's not like a direct straight line, it's more of a circular one, and you just kind of adjust accordingly. Yeah, they're not on international shipping quite yet. Yeah, it's that same thing, that notification. It's like, okay, the, Canadian Postal's back, you know, back in business basically, but for the time being, they don't want to inundate them, I guess. And I guess, I don't know, on U.S. Postal's part, they probably don't want to be getting a bunch of, I don't know, whatever inquiries, from everyone like me that's wondering where our shipments are. They would probably get inundated with a ton of inquiries about that. Yeah, those are all those little things, Beatrice. It's one of the. Sometimes I forget to mention some of those things. It's like, oh, I should have said that, later on. But I know what types of things, what types of questions have come up, um, whatever, over the years, and what things, especially if someone hasn't done something before. They'd go and pick up their first can of sealant or something like that, or whatever. And so we really want to get them kind of using a really good technique right off the bat. And it's one of those things too. You don't have to spray too much with those. So if you use like really good technique, it'll really extend the usage of that can of sealant too. Now on something like this, I sprayed this one quite a bit because I wanted to get this really super deep, glossy, look going here. Okay, so I'm adding that white down in here. So you see that little sparkle, that little extra little touch of contrast. I was using the yellow before, which is a darker tone, so it doesn't stand out quite as much. But you add this white in here, and it could potentially be the whitest thing, the lightest thing in the scene right here. So I'm kind of using it sparsely at first, and I'm kind of adding it here and there, and then I start adding a little bit more. The more that I add it in there, because it becomes more of a common texture and value in the scenes. So if I add like a huge amount like that without adding all these other ones, it really stands out kind of awkwardly. But the more you add in there, what you're saying is you have that similar lighting kind of shining on everything. So it just kind of blends in a little bit more, or a lot more. I mean, I think I mentioned this before, but here's another thing too. When you're adding something like this, it's easy to kind of, get this tunnel vision where you're just kind of adding it in one little area without kind of getting an idea of the overall like that. So you want to add in, so I'm adding these little dots like here and there around in this whole area, and then I'll concentrate a little bit more in there, but you can see I'm kind of working the entire piece. And then I just get, every piece gets a little bit more resolved, so it's like this overall kind of application of it. Then you start targeting, little detailed areas. I mean, that's the way I work. But I just find it easier to do that. And if I'm doing it that way, see, I'm like adding these little sparkles on these little leaves up here, but I'm just doing, it's like one or two dots because it's a dark area up there. See, there's little dots like that. See, it kind of makes these little black on dark objects. It makes them stand out a little bit more in terms of contrast. Here's a little thing like this branch right here. I can add a couple on that. These are the ones right here, these types of objects like this, where there's a ton of contrast. Where if you look at some of my pieces from years ago, 15, 20 years or something like that, I might have added like, I don't know, 3 times as much, and it's a little bit busier. So I don't know. I don't know which one looks better, but I probably use a little. I probably do it a little bit more sparingly now. All right, but see these little highlights like that. All right, it can be a nice touch. But I have done the thing where it's like I'm not looking at the overall, and I start highlighting these little things in here, and it's like, then I kind of zoom out, so to speak, and it's like I added a bunch of like Christmas lights over everything, because everything's like really super, whatever, dotted or whatever, highlighted. Which isn't wrong, because this is like really another fun type of thing to add in there like that. Yeah, it's coming alive a little bit, isn't it? But you add those little things in there like that, and sometimes, stamping out a card, yeah, I know what you mean. It's about the kind of the end result and stuff like that, or a large, part of it is, but sometimes it's just about the kind of the ride of it. Like adding those little things like that are really fun to add. So why not add a gazillion of them if you want to? It's like a little whatever adventure. Linda, this is some glossy cardstock. An actual acrylic spraying on a video. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Michelle, I have an actual playlist of on here on the YouTube channel. If you go to just the general channel and you go and you click on playlists, and there is I think I called it ceiling, or I don't know if it was called acrylic ceiling. I don't know what it was, but there's this one whole thing where this one whole playlist where it's just a bunch of ceiling of cards that typically, I don't know, I build up a ton of cards and I kind of seal them all at one time. But yeah, that's all in there. So with some of them, Michelle, you can really see the difference between one side of the card and the other side. Because some of the, those videos, I've had these cards sitting around for months, and they really can dry dull at times. So you can see I'll spray seal like one half of it, left side, right side, or whatever, and you can see the difference between the two sides. So that's really good to see too, because we spend a lot of money on like different pens. Okay, this is a gold pen here. I was talking about using the gold pen in the live stream the other day, and I didn't get around to it, but I was saying this is really fun because you can't see it a lot of times if I put gold over, because this gold, it's a dark color if it's over a light application like that. So what I like to do is I like to add it into some areas a lot of times where you can't really see it because I'm adding it over a tone that's already that same value like that. But I don't know if you can see this. I'll hold it up. But where this comes into play is if someone has this card and then they kind of hold it in a certain light, and all these other little dots on here that are otherwise invisible because they're that color against it. It doesn't matter if it's red or whatever, or gold. It doesn't have to be gold over gold, or golden tone, but as long as it's the same value, it just kind of disappears back into the same. But at a certain angle, this is really super reflective, so you get these flashes of other types of details that come out. Okay, so I don't know if you can see it here. But yeah, on some of those spray sealing videos too, I talk about, there's not too many, but I talk about how you seal off, how you can use that sealant on metallic cardstocks too. Okay, let me see. I don't know if you can see any of this gold at all. I won't add any more if we can't see any at all. I added a lot of the gold like in these middle tone areas. I didn't really add it into the light areas because I don't want a bunch of dark little dots in the light area, but I want some to kind of come alive right in there. I can't see them. Anyways, imagine like some golden flashes coming out of there in your head. Okay, so that means, let me see if I can see them. I can see them a little bit. I probably didn't shake up that pen too much. Maybe, was that gold? I don't know. Actually, I don't know if that was gold. Maybe that's why. Here's the gold right here. I was doing this. Yeah, okay, here, let me try that again. Sorry. I get confused, you know, there was like, I don't have like, I didn't think we had a beige color. That, yeah, this one's the gold right here. I don't know what this one is right here. Maybe I do have a beige color. Okay, let me see here. Okay, yeah, that's much different. Okay, I'll just do this really fast. Put a bunch around the moose. Okay, let me see if I can see anything here. Oh, yeah. Okay, so see that dot right there, right around those haunches, like that. I didn't add too much down here, but there's some little areas in here, but I put a bunch like right around in here. You can't see it too much. There's a couple like right in here. I don't know, but those are little things you can add a little bit more of. But you know what I mean? It's not visible like that, but it's one of those little really subtle things. Okay, yeah. You can see some come alive right in there a little bit. Or are those ones the white ones? Right up here. All right. So metallics, and it matches also with this border on here too. All right. If you sign your name on one of these too, it's kind of cool in the metallic. Like that. Okay, so I'm looking at this rock down here too. I couldn't do this at all in the live stream because the this black ink was just super wet. So we can do it right now. Okay, but Linda, so you asked about the glossy paper. So this is glossy cardstock, and it is not glossy photo paper, okay? You can do other things on glossy photo paper, but not really this degree of the layering of dye-based inks. But what I do on photo paper is I use a lot of alcohol inks on photo paper, and then I kind of, you know, use my blender pen and blend it out a little bit. But if anyone's ever curious about, and I also used a lot of Marvy pens in the background here, and someone asked me about Marvy. I don't know if it was the Marvy inks or re-inkers on that video, but someone asked me on one of my other video posts about that, and I just did some research, and I don't know, I forget about Marco's papers sometimes, but they had a lot of re-inkers still, and less They just had them listed, but they were actually out of stock. I don't think so, though. But Marvy has a lot of bright colors in their ink lineup. Okay, so there's a lot of the same types of colors, but they're typically a little bit uh, to a lot more intense. And I just say if you don't have to have the pads for them. The pads are been since discontinued. But even if you have like three or four Marvy ink re-inkers, then you can add those into the mix of with your distress inks, your mementos, Catherine Pooler. You know what I mean? You can add it into one of the layers, and it makes them all that much brighter. Just from the intensity, because all these inks are transparent too. And I added some of the intensity with alcohol inks too. So I don't know, maybe you can use some alcohol ink re-inkers too, over the top of other types of dye-based inks too. So there's all kinds of different solutions, you can still do if you're kind of layering down colors and you're just not achieving the intensity that you want. But Marco's Papers has that. They have glossy cardstock too in different. You don't have to buy it by the case or by the ream, I should say. But okay, so anyways, so I added a little bit more depth on these rocks down here. In the shaded areas, I added some alcohol. You can see where I've kind of, have that little shaded area right in here. And the tops of the rocks, it's a little bit lighter like that. Just to give it a little bit of extra depth, like so. And the one thing that I was wondering about on this one, I'm not sure if I should. I don't think I'm going to add in, because I have all these background trees that are supposed to be the same types as right here. I thought about adding that holographic glitter sparkle into those trees, but I don't think it would look right. Like this one here, all my trees are at the same depth, okay? Like that. So you get that glittery type of thing like that, but I don't think I want that sparkle on these trees isolated to that left and right near bank. I would have to have some in the background. This is like chunky glitter, so it would stand out too much. But I love this one where it's like those glitter things are really kind of illuminating that bottom portion like that. Sometimes you get it kind of sparkling in the top and bottom like that a little bit. But I don't know. It seems like it's like one or the other sometimes. Sometimes I can't get a photograph of one of these, and it's like all the sparkles and the reflection area. Okay, so let's leave that out. I didn't think I'd want it in there because that's where I'd put it. Or I thought about putting some. If I put any of that glitter in here, I'd probably put like a few right down in here so that they'd kind of flash as you tilt the card. But I don't know about that. Because I've spent all this time kind of mellowing this area out, this little passageway of light a little bit. And that sparkle would just be, unless I had like some smaller, like stickles or something like that, where you can put some of it down there. But I don't know, something like that might be kind of interesting. All right, so here, this is one more area that I'm looking at right here. I like this soft light. I'm going to try to put some right here at the base of this moose right here. To make it look like it's standing like in that type of illuminated, whatever, low-lying fog in here and mist. All right, so let me get a little more of that going there. Yeah, it looks like there's some potential delays, that they foresee. They're just trying to avoid any type of, kind of, yeah, like claims, that might, pop up after a couple weeks. They probably just want to see that everything's kind of like whatever, I'm sure they're in close communications, the two postal services. So it's like, okay, how, are you back up to whatever percentage? All right. I'm getting kind of, I'm tapping into my lighter areas again here before I go into this really dark one. I'm just kind of getting my bearings on the how much I'm applying in lighter areas first, because this is really going to stand out right here when I go down in here because it's darker. So I get a little practice in my lighter area, okay, first. All right. So you're given this moose here, something in common with the other objects that are in the water. You're saying that it's in the same type of, fog or whatever. Now, this is a darker area, so you're not going to have quite as much illumination as right there, unless I had a big white area in here, or a lighter area at least. So I'm just going to go nice and thin first, right? So you can see how many taps I'm doing in here. I don't know, it's like 35 or something like that, just to get that little whatever diffusion right down there. Okay. Now, if you get too much, a lot of times people are just going into it with like a lot of ink on this, okay, and that's where they kind of have a harder time if they're kind of learning this. And then when it's too dry, sometimes they think, okay, I can't see anything after like 3 taps or something like that. So they think they should add more, and they go in here, and then their pad is like super juicy or something like that, and it's leaving like big blobs, okay? So again, what I always tell people is that if you're starting out doing this, think about it like really like you're adding dry media to it. Think about it like you're adding like a powder or a light powder. And then when people tell me, hey, I got it too heavy, I have a hand, I can't seem to, stop pressing really hard. It's because they want to press harder, because it is just, they can barely see anything being applied in there. So I totally get it. And I start using more pressure too, the more dry this gets on here, okay? But if they're getting kind of blobs, it's too much pressure with a wetter applicator, okay? Because I know people can go into it and apply a lighter pressure, because, the analogy I make is I say, hey, think about it like you're applying like makeup onto it, like a small child's face or something like that, they're 1.5-year-old that's going out on trick-or-treating or something like that, and there's going to be a little bit of a, light makeup on their, they got to like pound it on their face or something like that, with a heavy hand, we're going to adjust, unless that kid's been screaming all day. All right, so see this right in here, kind of adding a little bit more right here because it dried out a little bit and it got a lot darker. If we have some of this illumination down here in the darkness, maybe we should make the illumination and the lightness a little bit lighter. I'm looking at this area in here too, and it's like, it's still a little bit too busy looking to me, so I'm gonna knock it back a little bit like that with some white pigmenting so you don't see so much texture like that. It's still there, but it's just lighter. Okay, and we'll use some of this in the background. I'm glad that the scene is allowing me to do this, and that I retained enough white apparently, because I wasn't sure if I did or not. Because it did get a little bit darker than kind of what I was thinking about when I started toning the scene. All right, there we go. So it's a little bit lighter right here and here, but again, when it dries, it's going to dry a little bit more see-through. So I think that should do it. Yeah. So see, that's like still kind of busy right here, but it's balanced off to the, you know, above and below section with this softer kind of light. It's crisp in here. So it's going light, dark, light, you know what I mean? But it's also going, you know, sharp, soft, you know, with your coloring in there as well. So it's a little bit more balanced of a scene now. You don't have to take like a gazillion, you know, so much time doing this type of thing too. But like I said, it's my end of year card for 24 and first one for 25. So I'm just kind of, you know, I'm trying to refine everything on it in that spirit. All right. But look at this right here. So here's what I really like about this one too. It's just little details like that, but see these little dots on the tree limbs like that? I mean, this is like 2 dots right here, 3 on this side. I got a couple more in here, but these little dots like that, it can really make these objects here in the branches and leaves stand out from the background a little bit more. They look a little bit more three-dimensional like that. And plus, from a textural standpoint, okay, so it stands out in terms of distance from the background, okay? But then you have all these little dots in here, okay? So, you know, there's little highlights like this on the trees and everything like that. And you have that same texture, but just much more sparse than the background. Okay, so it separates in terms of distance, okay? These trees right here, those little highlights on them, it makes those tree limbs stand out from the background more, distance-wise. But from a continuity, a textural continuity standpoint, it blends these objects in with the background areas, okay? So it separates, but it unifies as well from a textural standpoint. Separates distance, unifies texturally, okay? And then it's just fun to do too. So I wouldn't do it, you know, if it wasn't fun of a process like that. You know, you put these little dots in there, and it's like, oh my god, that tree branch, especially like right in here. You see these little dots right in here. This is a black against a really dark brown background. So there's not this branch does not stand out very much from that background, but just a couple little dots like that, you can really kind of assist in that creating that spatial separation like that. Let's see, I Google, and this is the info. What's that now? Delays into early 2025. Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that one there. Hello, Helen. How are you? Okay, I'm going to try something really fast here if anyone has time to check this out. I did this card, and I posted it on Facebook. A lot of people seem to like that one. I like it too. I'm just going to see something out of curiosity. I want to see if we can do something in that reverse kind of impression look. I don't know if it's going to look good at all. I usually do kind of a light, I think it was like a lighter holographic paper, and then I put black over it, and then I stamp into it with imagery so that we're revealing light. But I'm just kind of curious about putting this kind of foggy background, kind of cloudy type of whatever mist in the background, and then stamping over it and then revealing dark images, okay? I don't know, maybe I've done that before, but I can't remember. It's been a while since, you know, some of these different techniques. I was going to do, the video that I was going to do tonight was just going to be some of my favorite techniques, and I was going to do this like composition, but use just different techniques on it, like a quarter page one, okay? Nothing like super time consuming or anything like that, but these techniques that can go pretty fast. And then I saw this piece and wanted to finish it It was bugging me a little bit. Oops, sorry, I went out of focus there. All right, I need to restart my camera. Okay, so what I'm using right here is the dark blue foil, but I think you can use just about any color that you want. There we go. Okay, so this is going to represent like some background clouds on this foil. I'm using the Brilliance water-based ink, so it will dry on here. If you're using the like an oil-based pigment ink, I don't know if you can do this or not. And then maybe if you stamp into it, but you put some clear embossing powder over it and just seal it off so it's kind of like a raised finished piece. I don't know. Maybe that might look okay too. And I haven't tried. Linda, did you have some? Did you have some the Stays On white pigment ink? Someone had it in here, but I can't remember how that worked on foil. Someone had that, I thought. Does anyone have a white? Yeah, this can go for anyone. Does anyone have a white Stays On pigment pad? I think white is the only color that one comes in, I think. Okay, I'm trying to build this up a little bit right here because I have some trees that are stamped in here. I don't know what this is going to look like at all. Like I said, it may or may not work. Or we might be able to get some kind of, I don't know, whatever technique out of it. But maybe it's like, you know, different stamps should be used in there or something. I'm not sure. So this one right here, of course, it's positive. It's, you know, impression on, you know, back. It's reverse. It's white, but we're going to see if we can do a reverse impression. I'll hit some stars up there as well. Okay, now I wouldn't be doing this with the Stays On ink, but what I'm saying is if we use this for like the impressions on, you know, pigment on foil, on non-porous basically. Okay, so I'm doing this right here. So this is going to be my bank of clouds in the background. Let me make it a little bit more varied. I'll go a little bit higher like that. And I'm going to stamp my trees right over the top of this with no ink. And hopefully it removes the ink, leaving me in reverse impressions. But let's see how that goes here. Let me see if I can make this look a little bit like a deeper cloud by going a little bit more opaque down here. So I'll go lighter right here, and then a little bit of a shallower application of pigment right up there. All right, so I think that should do it. All right, let's see. I'm going to use the same imagery here as this one. Slightly different. Okay, so it's just a clean stamp, okay? And you want to get off as much ink as you can because I think that's going to have the best chance of lifting off this wet ink that's been applied to this surface right here. Certain types of foils may or may not work with this. This one happens to be a very mirrored style and sealed off. Some of the more porous ones, your pigment ink might adhere to it and start drying a little bit more. Specifically, I'm thinking about Recollections, the ones that I have in Michael's stores, those packs. they're just a little bit more porous, and sometimes they're almost like textured. Like it has this like crackle pattern on them, on at least on one of the colors. I think it was green. Okay, that looks okay. It didn't remove as much ink as I would have preferred, though. But let me see if I can. Let's do this right here. Let me do a fresh cleaning of this one, where maybe there's a little bit more moisture on it. Let me see, where'd my water bottle go? Okay, I'm just cleaning this off with water. Okay, let's try this in another impression. Let's go right over here. Okay, let's see if that affects anything here. Okay, yeah. Okay, so the Marcos paper, my glossy cardstock that I use is 10 point. Just because I bought a bunch of one brand of paper when they were going out of business, and the paper off the shelf was the 10 point. And I don't know even if I could have ordered the 12 point in that point in time. Okay, that came off a little bit more. So if it was a little bit more moist, it seems to remove a little bit more of this ink. I guess that makes sense because it's water-based. So if you go a little bit of moisture, water into a water-based ink, I guess it stands to reason that it would kind of put some of that ink maybe back into solution a little bit and, you know, be able to lift it. Let me try this too here. Okay, so that Marcos one, it depends on what the price is, but if the 12 point isn't too much more than the 10 point, I would probably opt for the 12 point. It's just a little bit nicer to work on, I think. But like I said, I've been working on all 10 point for years. I do like some kind of thinner papers for my things like Star Dream, though, which I didn't think I would like. But sometimes the thinner papers don't curl as much, just because there's not enough mass in them or something like that. So they just stay flatter, at least with the media that I use. Okay, let me see what this would look like with a white impression over the top of this right here. Do I do that first? Let's see. I'm trying to think about what else I want to put on here or try on here. I think in the future, I think if I did this again, I think I would add on. Now, this is really easy. I mean, I can add on just some more white over this and just redo that. But I think I would add on, I'd put a little bit, I wouldn't have this wet, but I'd have a little bit more moisture on there before stamping it out. And I think that would be pretty cool, at least on this blue one. Oops. Okay, this is the leafless pine. Let's put this, let me go with 2 of these because this is white over the top. So we have white clouds, kind of a reverse impression. Let me see if this even stands out against those clouds. It might just kind of completely disappear. And we'll see how much of this transfers on here too, if it does. It looks okay. It might need some white paint pen work in here though, but that's what that looks like right there. it'd be kind of interesting to allow this background to set up and dry and then to emboss white in this leafless tree over the top of that background. Okay, let's go about right in here. I'll go pretty low with it. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, Marco's paper. I think Marco, you can just Google it, but I think their website is Marco Paper without the S. I thought I saw something like that. Versamagic. I have Cloud White. Okay. I think we've talked about Versamagic before. I don't have any of that. I don't have it like hardly any of those Versa. Like there was Versamark, so it was Versamagic too. I have to work fast on the foils as it dries quickly. Okay. And is that a pure white, Linda? Sometimes when I look at that pad, I'm wondering if it's a little bit of an off-white. All right, so there's that tree like that. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, this seems like a little bit of an off-white to me right here, but is it just, did they just do that color just to give it a little bit of a, you know, variation on this label? It does say snowflake on there, so. Okay, let me see here. If anyone just joined in, this is like a experiment here, as opposed to a kind of an instructional piece on how to do this card. As with many of these videos, I wanted to see how much we could lift off here, how much we could stamp over something potentially. This might be different too. Like say if I just re-inked this pad before, maybe there'd be more, you know, white ink on there. I have no idea. And if it would transfer, or sometimes you stamp, hold for a lot longer, maybe I'd get a, you know, kind of a more opaque impression of those trees on top. Here's a word stamp. Looks more like it would be like a Christmas card or something like that. We'll do it for next year. Now, one of the things I can tell immediately though, and I think I've done this before, is after I spray seal this, what you do is you go in and you add like some snow on the tops of some of these branches right here, you know, right in that little elbow, you know, where the branch meets the trunk, you know, to make it look like snow. And that's really fun. And plus it brings it out a little bit more. I would probably run a little bit of a line up one of the sides of one of these trunks as well, too, just to make it stand out from that background, those background trees a little bit more too. Okay, let's see, let's splatter paint this a little bit. Okay, Dr. Martin's, P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, or just use whatever white you have. If you have an old correctional pen, that used to be one of the tools that quite a few people would use. They'd take their correctional pens and have another pen like that, and they would whack their correctional pen, and it would splatter paint out some very opaque white specks that, you know, kind of had the same consistency as this Dr. Martin's in many ways. It's kind of chalky and it dries really fast. Okay. Sorry, there's all that glare there. Oh, there we go. So you can see that a little bit. There's a lot more spray in here. It's not showing on my screen, I don't think. But there's that, and then let me see. Go in and add those little larger dots. I stay away from that word stamp like that with the splatter painting a lot of times because I don't want a big dot like in there. I guess I got a little bit of a dot like right on the C, but you have to be careful about that. Anytime you have like lettering, you don't want to have like an extra dot over something like that. Okay, now I don't think I can add this in here either right at this point in time because this is really wet in here. I'm going to try it anyway so you can kind of get the gist of what this might look like. But if I go in and I draw into this, I'm going to be kind of scratching away the wet white pigment ink that's on there. But let me see if I can, if this is flowing fast enough, I might be able to get a little of this in here. Yeah, okay, I can't at all. This is like super wet right here, so all I'm doing is I'm just dragging up some of that ink and it's going into my tip right here. So we'll just leave it at that right now. Let me see if I can get like a little star in here though. Let me see, where would I go? Let's go right here maybe. All right, let me see if I can get this. I'm gonna have to kind of stay away from all this other stuff right here because it's like everything's wet. Okay, so I'm gonna try to make like a little star in here. Okay, that one wasn't so, that line wasn't very straight. Okay, so you make your points like that. This is like all crooked. And I can redo this one. This will just wipe right off if I don't get it, you know, in there well. That's one of the fun things about working on foils too. A lot of this media will just kind of wipe right off if you kind of apply something and it and you don't get what you want. Like this whole area down here, I can just take a cotton ball and just wipe this right off and it'll come right off. Even sometimes even after it dries too. All right, so anyways, reverse impression stamping. Not great, you know. I'd want this to be a little bit more kind of removed in the background. And you can do things too where you do that background first and then it dries and you spray seal it and then you can get more opaque impressions of this tree right over the top of it. But I'm stamping wet into wet, so a lot of that ink from these leafless trees wasn't transferring on there because it's like all wet underneath there. So it's almost like you're removing off there and a lot of the ink is just coming right off with the stamp though. So, you know, heat set or whatever, or spray seal or something of that sort. But I need to play around with some more of those kind of reverse impression types of applications in there because those are really fun to do. I just need to kind of get back in the swing of it and kind of remember how to do some of those things. I'll have to watch one of my videos. It's been a while. Okay, so anyway, yeah, I got to get that re-inker. That's one of those things. I need a bunch of inks from Sukaneko. My VersaFine Clairs, I need a re-inker for that one. This stays on pigment ink, which I never got a re-inker for, so I hardly ever used it, and it dried right in the pad, so anyway. Okay, so Linda, so it's a chalk ink pad, and it's off-white. Okay. Do you know, is the VersaMagic a water-based ink pad, or is it an oil-based pink ink pad? Is the VersaMagic Sukaneko as well? I'm guessing it might be because VersaFine is Sukaneko. And I don't know. I don't know with them actually because they make the VersaFine Clairs And then they also make the Brilliance pigment ink. So they have both the water and oil-based inks out there. Unless the Versamagic is completely different type of ink than either one of those. Okay, but the chalk, yeah, I'm wondering about that one. The chalk pads that I knew in the past, didn't ClearSnap make chalk pads too? Uh, I don't think I ever had a chalk pad. Maybe one, but I wasn't using a lot of those pigment inks at the time. So, on a supply order and it's taking forever. Huh. Yeah, I think the yeah, I think those I think it created a little bit of a backlog of a jam of items in transit. I'm guessing because what it's been like. What it has it been? I don't know. Time keeps flying for me. I can't remember, but I'm trying to remember when that strike lifted. And I don't know, maybe it's just been a week since then. It feels like 2 weeks, though. Unless it has been 2 weeks. Yeah, but it seems longer to me because I keep checking into it like every day, and I'm trying to check into that one UPS thing that I've shipped up to Canada. Okay, it's Tsukaneko. I need to ask about that, someone about that. Okay, so the Versamark Tsukaneko, does it say on that pad? I don't know if you have it in hand. Okay, wait. Gives a permanent powder finish. Wait a minute. Okay, so they also make the stays on. Is the Versamagic some sort of like pigment based like solvent ink or something like that? Because when I see permanent, that's what I'm thinking of in terms of an ink. Huh. If that is there, that would be pretty good. If there was a bunch of different kind of permanent colors that we can choose from. Okay, color box chalk inks was all I used. Oh, okay. Now, how did you start stamping with those colored with the chalk inks, Candy? That's pretty cool, though. So you were doing your impressions with the chalk inks as well, and then coloring as well with the chalk inks? Let me see. The color box chalk inks. The color box chalk was the same as the same base, right? As the color box, the clear snap color box pigment inks, right? But then there was color box chalk, right? I was under the impression that the chalk ones just gave maybe a little bit of a, well, chalkier, like a flatter um, type of whatever end result, right? I have no idea now that Clear Snap's gone. But that's pretty cool, Candy. Okay, then when you have Versamagic, okay. Even on dark papers, color fast, light fast. Okay, that's good to know. That's the same thing with the memento pads from them as well. Yeah, so mementos Tsukaneko as well. I I'm glad Tsukaneko's around because they have some of these different types of inks that are really quite different. Unless I just don't know. I'm the last person to know about certain types of media out there, but they have so many different types of inks within their line. So the Versamagic is still out there. The Brilliance is still out there. I pray the Brilliance is going to be around at least with the black and the white one, maybe the metallics or something like that. But I worry about some of the colors of the Brilliance pads because I don't know too many people that are using them. But they're one of the few types of Mediums that will dry on those non-porous surfaces. So something like a Versamark or something like that, if that's like a really fast drying style, it'd be perfect for impressions, but I don't know if you can really color with them because if you start kind of trying to blend them, and let's see, you guys have tried that before. I'm not sure how much blending we can do with them if it dries fast. If it dries like if it dries fast like a stays on or something like that. Yeah, like something like this. If that white ink right there, dries really fast at all, we wouldn't be able to do these kind of reverse impressions because it would be way too dry before we even start, tried the impression in there or the reverse impression like that. But I really like these types of things like that because if I got a little bit more of a lift off that too, that metallic, because it shows through in there. See that metallic in those impressions is kind of cool. They have like this, it's almost like this foil impression in there, especially if you remove off a lot of more of that white, but it has that, it's this metallic looking print in there just because it's a reverse impression in there. And that's always kind of fun on those types of papers. But yeah, we need something like that. We need something that we can apply and then remove or manipulate after it's laid down like that. So I don't know. The more I think about the scareder I get. You know, because we want those types of things out there for a while. There's not, with ClearSnap gone, and I don't know, luckily Ranger's still around. How many other ink companies were there? You got the Catherine Pooler ones. I'm not sure if they're making their own pads, but there's one, I think Stewart Superior. I don't know if they're just called Stewart now or something like that, or Superior, but they make a lot of the different pads for different companies. So I'm not quite sure what their lineup is in terms of the types of inks they provide and customize for someone's own line of inks out there. Like I don't know if they make like pigment ink pads. I think it's like dye-based inks and maybe hybrids. Anyways, I'm just kind of rambling on right here. I have no idea. Okay, strike lifted on December 17th. Okay, that's been quite some time. Well, hopefully in this next week right here, Linda, we'll be able to get some things mailed up your way. Yeah, the Brilliance, yeah. So the Brilliance, okay, so the Brilliance ink pads, I use the white one all the time, and the black a little bit too, but mostly the white. That line is distributed here in the US by Imagine Crafts, okay? So they sell them on their website, but they are also the distributors for them, so people are buying them wholesale, like stores from Imagine Craft. I think it's called Imagine Crafts. It's Imagine something. And on their website, even like 2 or 3 years ago, they certain colors were already, you know, not available. And with them as a distributor, I was just assuming that those colors were discontinued or something like that. Or I don't know if they were just stopped carrying them here, but they're still being potentially manufactured. I don't know. So I don't know. Okay, let's see. Have you used Encore? No, I forgot. Yeah, that's another one. What are the properties of the Encore? I've seen those pads. Huh. Very, very metallic. So are they a pigmenting pad? A lot of people think I'm like an expert on inks. I know a lot about the inks that I use, but there's a lot of media that I don't have, like in some really well-known things. So we were just talking about the what's that Tim Holtz one? The not the distress dye base, but the water reactive ones. Like I don't have any of those ones at all. Okay, metallic pigment inks. Okay, I gotta check those ones out then, the metallic, because I have the Brilliance ones. The Brilliance metallics, I really like some of those colors. Like the silver one is such a great silver, but if the Encore is available in like a really bright gold like that, I need to try that because when I don't use the metallics in the Brilliant, sometimes it dries and it creates like this shell of dry ink on my pad. And I can kind of, I don't know if it's reconstituting it, when I add in some re-inker fluid, but it seems like I'm scraping off like a layer of whatever. I don't know. It's not coagulated, or maybe it is. I don't know. But it seems like I'm scraping that off. So what happens is I don't use those metallic pigmentings too often because of every time I use it, I have to re-ink the pad, and then if I don't use up that ink, I'm going to be scraping it off the next time around. So I need a better metallic pigmenting style of pad. And I don't know. Okay, so I'm wondering about that Encore too, as I'm kind of talking out loud here, thinking out loud. I'm wondering if that Encore is a oil-based or a water-based pigment ink. If it's an oil-based, you can't really use it on the metallics because it won't dry unless you emboss it. So, huh. But if it's an ultimate, if it's a fast drying one, okay. So again, so it's going to be either the water based, but then they have the Brilliance inks for that. So is it a fast drying something like a like a solvent ink or something like that? I wonder. Oh, the Jacquard inks. Yeah, I don't have any of those pads or inks. Huh. You would think that some of these ink pads would have come by my desk at some point in time in the last 30 years, but there were just so many different inks, pads. I used to use Printworks one, for a while, real early on. Actually, a very good property of the Encore. Very little smudging. Oh, okay. Okay, so Encore then. I need to make note of that. Okay. Metallic. And did you say, was that fast drying? Okay, fast drying. Okay. That'll be good. I'll have to give some of these a try. It's water-based, okay? Huh. So I wonder what the difference between the Encore is and the Brilliance then. Because the Brilliance is a fast drying pigment ink. Unless it has a little bit of a different chemistry to it. Like, I think, didn't like the Versafine and the Versafine Clair, weren't they different, someone said? Because I think they're still both available, right? They didn't just rename the Versafine to the Versafine Clair, did they? Huh. Eh. I'm glad we're kind of discussing this type of thing, though, because it's just a good thing, all practically these days, that there's not just like one or two brands of inks out there that that we have access to, as stampers. We went from kind of using Marvy ink pads and Tombow pens to this whole gigantic array of different inks and ink types and brands out there. And some of them have disappeared, but it seems like there's still a big array out there. Okay, might be hybrid inks. Oh, real? Are you talking about the Jacquard, Bonnie? Are those a hybrid? Okay, so yeah. Oh, so anyway, someone was telling me KP from Art Foamies. They make a lot of these midnight duo pads out there that are pretty fun. I haven't used these as much as I should, but these midnight duo pads, I guess, are on like a blowout sale right now. I think they're like super cheap. But this is a hybrid ink, and it's paired with a white hybrid, white or white pigment ink. I'm not sure, but you make all these different types of variations in value with it by mixing it a little bit. And you're saying, wait, what do you mean talking about mixing white? I thought that too, but then when I'm doing these scenes with it, after you're done and after you've mixed it a little bit, you just kind of wipe off the pad. And it's, reasonably good, but, that's the pairing that you would always use. But if you're interested in some hybrid pads with this kind of duo component, she's blowing them out. But I said, hey, you're not blowing out, or you're not getting rid of the Eclipse Black, are you? And she said, no, not the solid colors, So I really like this pad. Speaking of hybrid inks, for the pre-printed papers, the wood grain paper, the vintage papers, and what I don't know what else do we use? The what's that type of leather? What's that other the that I don't know, the more recent one. I can't think of the name of that paper. It looks kind of like leather. But those ones, the pre-printed papers, the ones that where we can use a little bit of a thicker impression or ink base to show up on those papers, the hybrids are really fantastic for that. A lot of other types work on that too, but I've been using the hybrid one for that mostly. But if the Jacquards are hybrids too, that would be good because we'll have a lot more access to different colors of that type of ink, which is always good. Okay, water-based and archival. All right. Can you prevent dye inks from running? Do you seal coat them? 50% on the duo inks. Yes. Okay, great. So yeah, that's what I should do too. So yeah, New Year's stamping resolution. I should stamp. I should use those. I should try some of those hybrid inks again. I really like using them too on your like the matte papers. I haven't really done it too much on the matte, but the semi-gloss papers because when you use these hybrid inks like this too, to me it feels like I'm doing some sort of like after I get them built up a little bit and the way they move on those papers, it feels like I'm working with like, I don't know, something akin to like oil pastels or something like that. It has this different kind of a tactile quality, especially if you build them up. And then after they get built up to a certain degree, you really kind of push them around a little bit and manipulate them. And it has this really kind of, I don't know, this soft type of what texture to it. I'm trying to think of what it would be like, but it would be like, I don't know. I guess like I guess it could be like pastels too, but it has a little bit of a because they're wet. It reminds me a little bit of something not quite oil pastels, but somewhere in between like regular pastels and like an oil pastel. It's like a buttery texture. Yeah, I guess that's a description I'm trying to go for. And they're really fun to build up like that. I haven't done like those types of like chalk or pastel drawings in a long time, like since I was in school. But that's what it took me back to in terms of the feel of it. And you can get pretty intense with those colors too. Okay, so VersaFine Clair has deeper, brighter, and stronger pigments than VersaFine. Oh, okay. So they might as well just discontinue the VersaFine then, I think, if that's the case with the Claire. The Claire seems like they're so much more popular too. The VersaFine, I think I only had one color in that, maybe two over the years. It was basically the black one I was using. And I would use the black one for like, in this case, like if I was doing a scene like this and I wanted like a really strong, thick, dark impression, I would go with the VersaFine on my foreground imagery or anything that was stamped in black. And it would be the last thing that I did in a scene. And then I can allow that to just sit out and dry for a while. And I would stamp that VersaFine on, even though it's a oil-based pigment ink, it didn't seem to have a problem of drying on glossy cardstock. Permitted, I gave it enough time to dry. It might not dry in like an hour or something like that, but I just kind of left it out overnight. But it wasn't dimensional like it was like embossed or anything like that, but there was a little bit more of a mass to it, so I really liked it for foreground imagery. These days I would just use the Claire because it seems to be a superior ink. It seems like the grain in the VersaFine is it seems like it's finer to me too. I don't know, is that the case, or is it just the pad too? The density of the pad's better than the VersaFine. I'm talking about the Claire has that nice dense pad, so the way that it applies ink to your stamp, it's probably in like finer beads, I'm guessing, maybe contributing to a more kind of detailed impression. I don't know. I'm taking a guess here, but oh, that sounds really familiar, Candy. Yeah, yeah. As you recall, you mentioned that you gave those away. It made an impression on me. I'm thinking, hey, are all your pads? You know. I guess if you weren't using them anymore, though, huh? Stacy Park inks and dye-based water reactive. Haven't heard of Stacy Park, huh? Stay wet long enough. One of these days, I don't know, maybe in 2025, the thing that I need to find that I've always wanted, I don't want for a lot of things in the ink world or anything like that, because I'm someone that really firmly believes in, you maximize what you have, you know what I mean? Or if you really want something, then you go and get it, because you're going to be using it. But this manganese blue Marvy ink right here, I wish that they had released this in pad form, but what they did was they went with the salvia blue for their light blue. But this blue right here, this isn't even manganese blue anymore either, though, because I think I've added water to it over the years. But there was a super bright blue and about that value right there. I mean, it looks like Bahama blue right here in Memento, but it's the Bahama blue is just nowhere near the brightness of this blue right here. So when I've used this in the past, I've just like inked up, a stamp or something like that, or I've put it on a paper towel and I've applied it that way, or a sponge or anything like that. But if we had a really super bright blue, it's not a super light value, but it's kind of like a light medium one. See, the salvia blue is lighter than this one right here, but I need like a really bright blue because I'm using blues all the time, and that would be like my main blue ink. I'm taking in dye-based inks. I guess it would be okay in pigment ink or something like that, or any version of that would be good. We need a really fantastic lighter but very bright blue. So if anyone has any candidates for that, drop me an email or something like that, or let me know. It's not always easy to tell though too from just looking at the pad, because a lot of the pads just don't have the intensity of the sticker indexing that's on the top of the pads. There's just that little icon on like a website or something like that too. It's really, I think I'm convinced that it's kind of hard to get that type of brightness in a light color besides something like yellow or something like that. The blue, I don't know. I haven't run into it with any inks out there, and I don't know. I think they would have had it probably, or created it if they were able to do it though. But yeah, that's something that I should actually kind of like look for or something like that at some point in time. I wish Marvy would just do it, you know. I'd drop him a note. Marvy, yeah, they would never do that. I'd buy like a pint of it if I can just get the rink. Oh, they're not going to have it anymore, though, because they completely discontinued the Marvy. I think they're Marvy markers, too. So, yeah. Mm. Anyway, I won't talk about that too much because it's sad. All right. Anyway, let's see. Thanks for checking out the vid here and the little experiment here. It definitely looks better in the positive right here, but I think I can take something from this little technique right here. Like I said, I should show you this. I'm not going to do it right here, but this can just really be removed like that. But I want to start doing some of those other types of little techniques like that and really get them refined and kind of figured out, you know, so we can use some of these really cool types of surfaces. Like if we could do like reverse impressions on this type of thing too, and you do these little, like small ones, like for little like Christmas tags or something like that, that would be really fun to do, you know, with these metallics like this. So now I have a decent kind of amount of different colors of metallics now too. So I really want to kind of experiment around with them because they really make some really super fast and dynamic surfaces because you're starting off with a paper that's just, you know, reflective and colorful and changes in the light and you know, it kind of adds that dynamic element just right off the bat, you know, so we're just kind of working around that. So I want to come up with some faster types of applications, I don't know, going forward, amongst other things that, you know, I need to play around with as well. Anyway, thanks for joining in. She has 24 colors now. Okay, so who are we talking about here? Let me go back up in here. I'll have to check some of these inks out here. Okay, wait, Stacy, was it Park? Okay, Stacy Park, I was looking for that one. I want to see what colors they have. Here's Stacy Park. I'll have to see what Catherine Pooler has as well. The thing about those Catherine Pooler ones too, I don't have any of her pads, but from what I saw, I liked the fabric. I think they were foam pads, right? As opposed to fabric surface pads. I like that dense foam style that she had because they're like the Marvy ones. They're kind of this dense foam as opposed to the more fabric-y style ones. And they're actually they looked more similar to, you know, going back to Clear Snap, that foam pad right there. This pad right here is like 30 years old. It's a dye-based ink, okay? I've never re-inked it before. And it's an amazing ink. It's still, my pads are still wet. And it's just this little top. It doesn't even seem like it's terribly airtight, but it's like a phenomenal pad. And it's not broken down like one bit. When I saw a picture of the Catherine Puller one, I thought that looks like the same pad that Vivid used. So I don't know. Okay, I don't know anything about those pads, and I don't have any, but that's what it looked like to me. And I think someone confirmed that it was a foam style pad. I thought I haven't asked about it in like a year or something like that. But anyway, scrapbook being made simple. I'll check her out sometime. Canyon Road somewhere in California. Got it. We'll check it out. All right, thanks everyone for checking out the vid. This scene right here is going to get one more real light spray sealant right there, but you can see what that little white kind of application of pigment ink did in here. Everything's a little bit more kind of alive and illuminated and kind of crazy, a little bit more depth in there. But yeah, paint pens and white pigment ink, they can really kind of add a nice, range to a lot of different things in your scenes, provided you keep a little bit of white on the paper, when you're coloring them, and then you can go back in. And for me, it's like, it's like saving the day with a lot of the different areas in there. Not that it was kind of messed up, but it was just like a layer underneath the final touches, and the final touches like that, if you get those things down, it can really kind of add a sense of illumination and, textural, whatever, richness to your pieces. So if you have any problem with that, let me know. We'll get you to have that whatever fog application touchdown. Anyway, let's see. Someone Safe Park HSN, interesting. Got it. All right. I guess it's not too late to say Happy New Year because this is the first live stream of the new year. But hope all of your this is a stamping channel. Hope all of your wildest stamping dreams come true in 2025. All right. Good night, everyone.